And here we go. We are the class of 95. Well, at least for the purposes of this show, which is the debut of our new miniseries, Class of 95. We're going to be looking back on 3 films that came out the year that I graduated from high school. Yes, I am ancient. So we're looking back on 1995, and we're kicking it off with Clueless. I think the biggest movie, certainly box office wise, of the ones we're going to be talking about. Amy Heckerling's high school comedy was a landmark, and she's one of those filmmakers that has a career littered with landmarks. She did Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Look Who's Talking, and now Clueless. We're going to talk about all of that good stuff and what it would be like if she made a contemporary high school movie today. Because my goodness, I couldn't even imagine. But what I can imagine is my lovely co-host, my co-panelist here, Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, rocking not only a Cher-worthy outfit, but also an original 1995 VHS cassette of Clueless. Wow. Is that in the shrink wrap still?
It is not. I've watched it too many times for it to be in a shrink wrap.
Well, so let me ask you, how many times have you purchased Clueless on some sort of home video? Have you owned it in every format?
No, I own it on VHS. I watched it in the theater, from my recollection, either 3 or 4 times in the theater.
Wow.
And it's like I kind of get confused between Clueless and Can't Hardly Wait. I know Can't Hardly Wait was definitely, I saw that 4 times in the theater because I started to write down my little, like, here's who I took to see this, and here's who I took to see this. And so I know that was definitely 4 times. This one was definitely multiple viewings because I just loved it. It was fun seeing Alicia Silverstone. She made her name for herself with The Crush. And then Clueless just took her to, she could, like, I think she started a production company after this film and was, like, starting to make her own movies. She was, like, I think 18, 17. She didn't have to audition. I mean, that's amazing. And yeah, Clueless was the bomb.
Yeah, and also I think it was in like 94 or 93, around there. She was in those the Aerosmith videos for Crying and Crazy, and so she definitely was the kind of the icon. Now I haven't seen The Crush in probably since it came out, but that was very different from a lot of the roles that she ended up taking once she became Alicia Silverstone. I
Yeah.
think a lot of that has to do with the success of Clueless. The closest I can think of in terms of a modern parallel is probably Sydney Sweeney. The kind of the popular imagination kind of bombshell sex symbol who's parlaying that into like her own kind of business. She's a very savvy performer and also producer and all that stuff. So, but let's talk about Clueless. I'm going to get into my history with Clueless, but I want to know from your perspective. You loved it so much that you saw it multiple times in the theaters. Were you out of high school when you saw this? And what did it like? I don't know about you, but for a few years after I graduated, I was still drawn to like those teen-centric comedies and things like that. Try to see how a filmmaker would put their pulse on the zeitgeist of whatever was going on in teen culture, even though I was moving out of that space. But how did you come to the film? What did you make of it, and why did you respond to it in the way that you did?
I was out of high school. Thank you for thinking that I wasn't. I was out of high school 3 years by then. And I mean, movies are movies. I want to try and see them all. I knew someone had said that it was sort of a modern day version of Emma. And I like Emma and everything, that Emma tried to do with her friends and family. And, sometimes stuff didn't go as she wanted it to. So seeing this, I thought that Amy Heckerling did an excellent job taking, a 17th century, 18th century tale and putting it in, 1995 and really hitting all the marks with it. Also, the cast intrigued me. After Clueless, I followed a lot of the cast members and stuff like that, like Brittany Murphy, Breckin Meyer, Paul Rudd, Stacey Dash. I feel like I knew before, but then I felt like she was doing like she did Clueless, and I think she did the series, and then she went straight into adult roles because she was actually older than Paul Rudd when Clueless was done. Like she was, yeah, I think she's like 5 or more years older than Brittany Murphy and Alicia Silverstone at the time.
Wow.
And, seeing them going on to do different things. Who was it? Sorry, I'm messing up the names. Donald Faison. I love seeing him then, in Matthew Lawrence's TV shows and stuff like that. Lisa Donovan, Jeremy Sisto has been in so many things. And then Don Hedaya, I knew it's like he did this. He was in, he's just an amazing character actor. And then to see him in this is like, what? Okay. And even at that time, I knew who he was from so many different things that he's done. So, and Amy Heckerling, since I knew I was a huge fan of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So to see her go from Fast Times, and I forgot that she had done Look Who's Talking, even though I saw that in the theater. First one was good, second one, but seeing her go from high school to high school is like, that's a hard thing to do. And it is, when she then did Loser in 2000, it did not get the same. And she didn't really, to be honest, catching lightning in the bottle twice is more than some people even come close to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Third time was not the charm, definitely with Loser. But hey, again, catching lightning in a bottle twice is normally 2 times more than a lot of people. Like, they don't even hear the thunder. So good for her that she, has done something that's going to be in the zeitgeist like forever. Like, I still quote Clueless. I still quote stuff from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think a lot of people do. And this was one of those films that when they kind of changed the poster, they had this poster and they had another one with, I think, more of the cast. After this movie came out, I really was telling people, like, you need to see this film, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that people are going to be saying that are going to like hit the 90s that we really need. And it was also something that after everything with grunge and stuff like that, I really like to have this with like girls being dressed up and stuff like that, because that's how I was with my friends when we would go out. So even though I was way older than these girls, I'm like, I like your style, I like what you're doing, ladies, I'm gonna copy it.
Well, yeah, there's so much there to talk about. The fashion is something that jumped out at me, because I've got a son who's in high school, and there's that scene where Cher and Dion and I think Ty were walking through the campus, and they see like the potheads. I can't remember what they called them. They had a specific name for them, but they're just like
Burnouts
the
or something. I think
it wasn't burnouts. It was something else. It wasn't quite layabouts, but it was something like that. But they're walking down the quad, and they've got like these baggy. She said it looks like they just kind of rolled out of bed and went to class, but they've got the baggy like pants down to the ankles with the boxers showing. Some of them are actually in their pajamas. They just look kind of listless. I'm like, we're seeing that now. Kind of post-COVID, especially. It's like I've gone to pick up my son at high school sometimes. I'll just sit there like while the car's running, waiting for class to get out, and I'll just notice students piling out of school. I'm like, they're literally in like pajama pants and, and like t-shirts. I'm like, and you look back on Fast Times back from 1982 and
Yep.
even Clueless, there is a jump, there's a difference in fashion, because Clueless is obviously more about like the kind of upper crust wealthy people who can afford to have like giant spinner rack wardrobes with automatic computer software that dresses them for them, which is also very modern day. Whereas Fast Times is more kind of like working class, regular, relatable high school kids, but still they were kind of dressing up, and even the people who weren't, even the stoners had more style
Yeah.
than some of the folks we see today. And I'm sorry, I'm shouting at clouds being the old man, but it's just something. Many things stood out on this rewatch. Cher refers to herself as the R word, which it's kind of a lightning strike. I know that's unfortunately kind of coming back into vogue on online culture,
Yeah.
but it is still kind of startling to hear in a mainstream movie, because you wouldn't hear that nowadays unless it's the villain kind of using that as an epithet.
Oh, definitely. Well, and there's so many different things that like Paul Rudd being called, he's not quite a Baldwin and all that stuff. And it's like, people wouldn't even know who Baldwins are right now, except for Alec with his soccer team of kids and stuff like that. Because I mean, I don't think anyone really knows who like Billy and Steven and crap, I forget the fourth one.
Daniel.
Daniel, yes,
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, well, it's strange because because in 1995 we're just Alec Baldwin is he's it, right? He's a sex symbol, but nowadays I can imagine someone watching this movie for the first time, especially someone who's younger, and someone refers to Paul Rudd's character as being almost a Baldwin. Like, wait, does that mean that he's likely to possibly shoot someone in the face?
I know. There's also that too. Well, and I mean, I'm thinking 1995, it's like Billy Baldwin was on fire. I mean, you had Backdraft, you had Sliver and stuff. And I mean, he was the epitome of like gorgeousness beyond gorgeousness and all that stuff. And yeah, so it's funny. It's like I wouldn't even know, and I think because there's so many brothers, it's like I don't even know if kids would call, like, would kids call somebody if they thought they were cute? It's like he's kind of a Jonas. I don't know with that. I'm trying to think of like, or a Hemsworth. I guess a Hemsworth. That would be it. Okay, never mind. I just answered my own question. Yeah.
No, it's totally. I totally get it. As far as I want to sidetrack on something, because I thought of it when you were talking about Loser, the Amy Heckerling film that came out kind of after this and didn't do well. Much like Billy Baldwin in Sliver, those are two movies that I think the music video that came out for them was much more entertaining. Because UB40 did one of the only times that I think a music remake rivals the original. It Can't Help Falling in Love.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Loser, you got Wheatus's Teenage Dirtbag.
Mm-hmm.
Both really fun music videos. Both music videos way better than anything going on in the movie, except for certain parts of Sliver. But I'm not going to get into that, although my 16-year-old self definitely did. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of music, I mean, Amy Heckerling, especially, like I have the Clueless soundtrack someplace. I mean, that soundtrack was fire. And I mean, also Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Also, Look Who's Talking. Loser soundtrack was great. I don't really remember Vamps having a good, but I also don't remember that movie like actually coming out when it did. If you don't know Vamps, it's about two female vampires who are like, it's Alicia Silverstone and her last name is Ritter. I forget her first name.
Oh, Kristen Ritter from
yes.
Jessica Jones. Wow, that movie is not on my radar at all. When was that?
That was, I feel like 2009. And that was an Amy Heckerling directed film. I can find it. But yeah, again, Alicia Silverstone and stuff like that. And I don't remember that so much. 2012 was Vamps.
Wow. Okay. So that was not a high school story, is what you're saying.
No, they were supposed to be younger women who were vampires. So they were actually like, I think 150 years old or stuff like that. They were just trying to figure out life and all that. But again, didn't hit like the other films and her stuff like that. So
yeah, for folks who have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about the movie Clueless, it is, as you mentioned, sort of an adaptation, a modern day update of Jane Austen's Emma. and it involves Cher, played by Alicia Silverstone, who's the kind of the spoiled but kind-hearted but naive, some might say clueless, daughter of Dan Hedaya's high-powered L.A. attorney, and she just kind of goes to high school with her best friend Dion, and gets into these kind of little misadventures. She's sort of boy crazy, but she has no luck with boys because one turns out to be a jerk, the other one turns out to be gay. She gets a project in a new girl named Ty who transfers in from like New Jersey, who's a
Yeah.
total like stoner, sex addict, not couth at all. And so Dion and Cher decide to make her over, and they succeed, and they create a bit of a Frankenstein monster, not to the degree that we see in some movies where that is the main plot, because this movie is pretty much all subplots, almost skits, with a
Yeah.
couple of through lines that go, throughout the film. And my wife had to set me straight because we were watching this last night. She loves Clueless in a way that I couldn't possibly. In fact, last night was probably the fourth time I've ever seen it, and it's the first time that I really appreciated it as a film. Now, I don't know if it's partially nostalgia or whatever. I did watch it. I think I caught it in video. I don't even think I saw it when it was in the theater because I thought, oh, this is some, pardon me, this is 18-year-old, high school guy talking like, I don't want to go see some chick flick unless I'm on a date. I wasn't on a date. But watching it now, I fully appreciate the kind of literary references, the brains, the humor, and frankly the nostalgia works in a way that it wouldn't have in 95 because that was contemporary, it wasn't nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But with everything that's going on in Clueless, my wife pointed out, because I'd always been grossed out by this, Cher develops a crush on Josh, played by Paul Rudd, who is sort of her stepbrother, but a stepbrother by divorce. So there's no blood there. Because I was always kind of wigged out like, dad is sort of trying to make this little love connection. And I'm still not totally on board with it. Because even though we did have like a 5-minute conversation about the logistics and the legality and the morality of this, I was still like, that's kind of skeevy. Because for a little while they were all still married, they were brother and sister. And I think one of the attorneys points out, or maybe it was, I can't remember who said it. Maybe Josh said it, but like would be brother or something like that. It was just weird.
I know in today's, I think if people looked at it today who are not familiar with it and stuff, because Cher even says it's like, he's not my brother. It's like, or because he keeps calling him dad, and she's like, he's not your dad. He was your dad for like a few years, and then your mom. It's like, because her mom and stuff. It's very. I think if people saw it now, they would definitely have this like, there's so many Pornhub logistics with it that it just could not work. And because you're saying this, and I'm thinking like, God, you know what? Because I actually did not rewatch this before we started talking, because that's how much I have it memorized. But you saying it, I could see it's like, the way you talk about it, it's really Pornhubby, and it's not, but at the same time, she is in high school and he is in college, and he keeps calling him dad, and she's skeeved out about it. It's like, oh, he's not your dad. Don't call him that. Gross. But she's not saying that because she's attracted to him. She's saying that because the opposite, she's not attracted to him. And it's very brother, sister, like, oh, stop touching. Ugh. Like when, So I can understand why you would have that reaction to it and stuff like that. Not because of the Pornhub thing, because of the other.
Well, I apologize if my description of it is resonating in a way that might cause you to. I don't want to skew your appreciation of the movie at all. That's not my intention.
No. I mean, believe me, it's like, this is me thinking of it in a different way and stuff like that. But I could see if someone was like, oh yeah, so they were brother and sister, and then the dad got divorced. So now, the former stepbrother happens to live at the same house, and sometimes, and it's like, wait, what? And they got together? Gross. It's like, no, actually it's, well, I mean, I guess when you talk about it, like, kind of, but not at the same time, no. And that's very different from Emma too. It's not like, her suitor lived at the same house or something like that. And that is, yeah, I could see that, not necessarily animosity, but a little bit of like standoffishness regarding this relationship. But I do think that the way they describe it and stuff is, because during the film, Josh sees her at, growing up and stuff like that. And
You're not making it any better.
I
Katie.
I know. But she's seeing him as like
Yeah.
actually like a really good guy, not as
Yeah.
her brother, but as, someone who helps out people with nothing in return, and helped her out when she got mugged and stuff like that. Which, it's so funny, when I was reading the IMDb, I didn't realize Paul Rudd actually got mugged while he was making this, and they took his
What?
backpack that had the Clueless script in it. How much would that be worth now?
Oh my gosh.
What? Also very scary. I'm sorry, my fellow Missouri, well, border, I think he's more Kansas, but my fellow, heart of the Midwesterner, to go to LA and get mugged, that had to have been very, very scary. But when she realizes that she has feelings for Josh, after they do a little montage, which, Ian, this girl loves a freaking montage, man. They do the montage of her going through all the aspects of Josh, and she has this epiphany that she likes Josh. But it's like, so wait, how do I act around him now? Because it was always kind of like a weird, and I'm gonna say it was a weird like animosity brother sister thing. So now she likes him, but yeah, there is no blood, so there wouldn't be, nothing incestual. Just definitely, I feel like in that circle frowned upon, and I really don't see that her dad would have been like all like, sure, well, let's make this relationship happen. No, I don't think so. I don't think his neighbors and associates be like, I'm sorry, what's happening at your house now? What?
The only thing I can think of is the dad would kind of see this as having a built-in power couple that he could, because Josh is interested in the law. Cher is also very legal-minded. So he's like, hey, family practice.
Which I will say this, if people have not seen Clueless, watch it, because when there's a scene where she gets her report card, and and she's like, these are just starting off grades. She improves them and stuff like that, and it goes from like she gets a C to an A and stuff, and the whole negotiating the grades and stuff like that. I've actually used that in many different aspects of getting a raise, and doing, like, if I've done acting gigs, like, going like, okay, so this is a start. I'm like, okay, so this starting off number is nice. I'm going to say we go to this and stuff like that. And it actually taught me a lot at that age to regarding negotiation and your salary and stuff. So, hey, it's got some, actual merits to them in that as well.
No, I mean, that's great. And that's one of the things I do love about this movie. As much of a hard time as I'm giving the kind of the romance subplot, it totally works, sidebar, because it's Paul Rudd and Alicia Silverstone. The chemistry in a lot of the acting pairs in this movie is so on point. We'll get back to Breckenmeyer and Brittany Murphy in a minute. Don't let me forget them. But what I loved is, wholesome is kind of a trite word, but you really do feel there's a lot of love here. The dad is kind of overbearing, but he's also sweet in his own way because he really wants the best for his daughter and doesn't want, I think he sees that at least her exterior is the kind of person that could be easily kind of taken advantage of. We sort of see a microcosm of that in the mugging, right?
Yeah.
But she's also got this kind of intelligence and a sort of a fierceness and a determination that can come out, and he wants to nurture that. Feels the same way about Josh. Like, in a different movie, Dad, the big kind of like corporate lawyer, would have heard that Josh wanted to, be an environmental lawyer, and he does kind of rib him a bit about it. But that's the kind of one of the early scenes. But throughout the rest of the movie, Josh is invited to help out in this giant legal case and really get involved. And there's no more wisecracks about, tree hugging or anything like that. He's taking him seriously. And I love that the adult and the kid relationships down to the teachers, there's no, to use a word that you've used many times on this show so far, I love it, animosity.
Yeah.
There is still that kind of a hierarchy of like teacher, student, adult, student, but there's a mutual kind of respect there, and it's all in good fun. I feel like nowadays it's all kind of antagonistic in terms of like these generational conflicts. The one thing I will say, I nearly passed out because there's a moment where the great Wallace Shawn plays a teacher that Cher is trying to connect with another teacher of hers, both of whom she's not doing very well in school. And as you point out, she goes to various lengths to try and boost her grades without actually studying. So she tries to get these two teachers in a romantic relationship, thus improving their outlook on life, thus making them go easier on their students. And it works. But at one point, Wallace Shawn in voiceover, Cher is talking to him and he's like walking up the stairs or something. And she says, and he's 47 years old. And I was like, wait a second, I'm 47 years old. I'm like, I don't look like Wallace Shawn, do I? No, that's downright inconceivable.
Okay, one, I have missed that, but that makes me think of Wilford Brimley, and Wilford Brimley and Paul Rudd. Actually, Paul Rudd is older than Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon. Yeah, in Cocoon, I think Wilford Brimley was 49, maybe 50. Yeah, and they're supposed to be living in a retirement home and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I've seen that many times, that Wilford Brimley, the whole Paul Rudd, Wilford Brimley thing. But it's also the same thing with the Golden Girls. The Golden Girls were in their early 50s when they were doing the Golden Girls. And it's like, why are you guys even living together in a house in Miami when you're supposed to be like 53, 54? What is going on? Because the whole thing, it's like, Golden Girls is like supposed to be the, or like they did Golden Girls and then they did Sex in the City, and it's like, all that stuff. But I'm like, these women are now, because it's like now with the new Sex in the City, they're the same age, I think, or maybe a little bit older than the Golden Girls were.
Yeah, I remember what Golden Girls was like the mid 80s. It was like 84 or something like that. Is that right?
I feel like it was like 80, maybe 85. 80. Here's the thing, and I don't know if I've said this before. Once my family got cable, my dad, the reason why I know so much about movies and all my friends, like once we got cable, I was told I couldn't watch like regular TV anymore because we're paying for cable. So we're going to watch the movies that we're paying for. So 83 and lower, I can tell you all about TV shows, reruns, all that stuff. 83 and beyond, it is a void to me. I know very little because I had to sneak in to watch MTV. Of course, I could watch Toxic Avenger, but MTV was off limits because like, oh, that will rot my brain. Okay, Jim Glidewell, 1980s. Like, this is a Gen X dad. This is a Gen X family. This is what we had to deal with. But yeah, I never watched any of the Golden Girls. I wasn't really a Cosby kid. I mean, I remember 8 is Enough and like Different Strokes and all that stuff. And then Different Strokes, that's fine because they everybody end up having a rap sheet and all that stuff. So that was probably best that I didn't watch that. But yeah, I never watched Golden Girls at all.
The reason I bring it up is because Estelle Getty, who played the oldest, she was supposed to be like 80 something or whatever.
And she was youngest.
Right. So, because when Mannequin came out, the great with Andrew McCarthy and Sex and the City's Kim Cattrall, she played the owner of the department store that Andrew McCarthy went to work at. And I was so confused because I watched the Golden Girls where she's playing like 80 something. And then she looks like she's, in her 50s walking around this department store. Like, what is going on here? Is this time travel? But
oh, yeah.
one thing I want to talk about, okay, we've kind of mentioned it, but a modern movies, it's kind of a cliche to say they're all sequels, remakes, IP. There was something going on in the late 90s to early 2000s regarding movies that were made from genuine literary sources. I mean, in addition to Clueless, which was adapted from Emma by Jane Austen in 2005, 20 years ago now, you had Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley.
Mhm.
Back in the day, you had Romeo and Juliet from William Shakespeare, and also Julia Stiles in a version of Othello, Shakespeare in Love. It's weird because we're watching a culture that these things were adapted from, and there was sort of a recognition that this was adapted from material that you probably fell asleep reading in high school, but there was at least an understanding there. I don't see that translating today. Like everything now just seems to be references to pop culture, which is also just referencing itself like a giant Ouroboros. I mean, for crying out loud, Michael Bay is in the middle of making a skibbity toilet movie. I don't see how, if you tried to, make a Jane Austen adaptation today, I don't know how that would work. I guess they just came out with Juliet and Romeo, that musical that I have no interest in seeing. But that's kind of its own weird thing.
Yeah, because I do feel like Clueless kind of like opened up that floodgate of adapting. Well, and 10 Things I Hate About You is kind
That's
of
right.
like Taming of the Shrew.
I forgot about that one. Yes. I
Yeah,
was going to write that down and I forgot it when I was making my note. Yes. Great
and
movie.
it's very much, yeah, taking the Shakespeare and Jane Austen and those different adaptations and books and plays and turning them into films for teenagers in the 90s and stuff like that. And with Romeo and Juliet and Baz Luhrmann and like really that. But now I just feel like they're remaking remakes, or they're making it. And we've talked about this on your show. I feel like 2025 is the year of the sequel that no one asked for. And because I feel like there's a lot that it's like, it took 8 years. And that is one thing. I know they made the TV show of Clueless, but I'm so, so glad they didn't try and do a sequel or do anything, which I don't think that's really Amy Heckerling's style to do that. I mean, I like that she did the uh, TV series because to add on to each character and but to have a sequel with this, it just wouldn't work. Like you need to have that Emma foundation and just have that storyline like finish to end. And same thing with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You had just at the end of it, you had all the descriptions of what everybody did, and that's it. We don't need to see a second thing that happened to them because it's like it's one and done. And but yeah, with everything with the high schoolers and stuff these days, it's basically a sequel of a sequel or some other like the third and fourth thing. And I don't even I don't know what if they even read the Shakespeare, if they read Shakespeare or any of the stuff. I mean, I would. It's like, do they read Steinbeck? Do they read any? It's like, is interested in Animal Farm. I don't know if these are books that are even. I mean, I hate to say it, but are these books that are possibly banned now that high schoolers aren't, able to read and stuff like that? Because that's stuff that I read that I loved that really opened my mind up to so many different aspects of society and politics and things that people went through in the 20s and 30s that, if you think things are bad now, it's like, hi, you didn't have a homeless man like latching on to a woman who just lost her baby for milk for sustenance. Like that's what was going on back then, kids. This isn't great, but it's not that bad right now.
Right. And I'm not sure exactly all that's being, taught in high school. I mean, my youngest is barely in high school. So, and it's also, it's that thing. Again, I feel so old because I don't know if I feel like I was more expressive and talkative when my parents would ask me a question like, "So what did you learn today in school?" I don't know. What are you doing this week? Anything going on? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. What's something fun that happened today? Not much. That kind of thing. But it's also just kind of odd because movies themselves don't have the same cultural cachet among the young as they did, back in the 90s, because back in the 90s, kind of to your point, it was like cable television and the movies. The internet existed, but it wasn't as robust, or you couldn't stream movies and and shows and things like that. It was kind of text based. So now when you have the rare film cultural moment, like you had a Barbenheimer a couple of years ago, or you had the Minecraft movie sensation, a lot of that is driven by memes. Minecraft, those were memes about the movie months before the movie came out. So I had this weird epiphany when I went to see the Minecraft movie. People were like yelling out lines, and this is, I think, opening Friday, the opening Friday of the release, or maybe it was a Saturday. But I was like, okay, how is it that everybody in the theater are treating this like Rocky Horror Picture Show? They're shouting out lines like this movie just came out. Are they going to see it, 6 times because it's like the next Avengers Endgame? And then I think it was my son who's clued into all this. He said, "No, Dad, this is all memes." Like when he comes as "I am Steve," like that's from the trailer, but that was just kind of recycled and perpetuated and made into all different kinds of like variants all over the internet leading up to this film, to the point where you don't have to read anything or know anything about it. You just have to watch TikTok and you're part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think about like regarding memes and stuff, like they still have that for Clueless, because like when Cher's taking her driving test and she runs into the car and like hits the siren, it's like, oops, should I leave a note? It's like I feel like I've seen that different times. I've seen As If so many times, which that's sometimes things that I still say, and like she like pushes the guy out of the way when she's like walking. And I mean, I feel like Clueless definitely would be, if Clueless came out now, that would definitely be a film that would have so many memes, so many TikTok things. I feel like if they, which I hope they don't, but if they did a new one, they would have like TikTok dances and stuff like that, which they kind of do anyway. And it's amazing seeing the film that it's like, God, all these kids have cell phones. I don't remember having a cell phone, but it is the fact that they're all super stupid, ridiculously rich. So it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, and again, like you said, you go from the working class in 1982 to Clueless, that is like beyond rich that I've seen. I mean, I knew some rich people, but not the fact that it's like you had the dry cleaner closet where it's like, let's put these things together and let's do that. Did I wish I had that? Yes. Do I still wish I had that? Also, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, if they were to do a new version of Clueless now, I feel like this whole conversation has been me being that attorney, that asshole attorney who's at the table with Josh and Cher, who there's kind of a mess up on this big case, and he blames them because they're kind of playing footsie and falling in love with each other, and they blame him because like, why didn't you catch the mistake? But I think he calls Cher stupid or something like that, and I feel like wait, did you freeze or am I?
No.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay, sorry.
We're good. I was just sitting here listening.
No, for some reason, like my sound dropped out for a second, and so my internet. Talk about 1995 internet. I think I have that this afternoon, but
Yeah.
it's pre-dial-up. That's what we're dealing with. No, but I feel like I'm sort of sitting in judgment of like, if they were to remake this movie, I don't know if I'd want to see it because it's going to be like TikTok airheads and people mumbling to themselves and all that stuff. But I think something that Heckerling picked up on. Now, Fast Times, she directed that, but that was based on actually reporting from Cameron Crowe, who went undercover in a high school to kind of get these stories and that flavor of that generation. But that movie and also Clueless were taking kids who adults, I think, would write off, because every generation does that to the young. I feel like I'm kind of right there now. I would be willing to watch that movie, but it would be a lot for me to uncross my arms and be like, there's nothing going on here. But I feel like if in the right hands, perhaps in the hands of Amy Heckerling, if she still wants to make movies or tell these kinds of stories generationally, which I love the idea of, then I would be open to saying, yeah, there's more going on here. Or perhaps the dark side is maybe there isn't anything going on here. Maybe that's why no one's stepped up to make the ultimate generational high school movie of the last 20 years. I feel like I'm missing something. Has there been that movie? I mean, the last thing I can think of is American Pie from like 26 years ago. And then those like did kind of diminishing return sequels that they made.
Yeah, no, actually, when you say that, I cannot think of one. I mean, even if there was one sporadically, I cannot think of one. I wanted to make sure I put that in. It's like, I hope it's not sporadically.
And she used it correct. She used it correctly. And I love that.
It's like, oh, good. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I don't even think sporadically there's been like that. I mean, I don't know. The thing is that if there has, I don't know if it's necessarily been, it's probably been on Netflix, because you've got the Kissing Booth movies. You've got, I think there's it's like episodic, like seasons on Netflix. It's like, you've got, I think, Forever that's on Netflix right now. Something To All the Boys I Loved Before, The Summer I Turned Pretty. These are all like high school kind of things, but they're all on like Netflix or Prime or something like that. There's not like a big film event that I can think of that has been in a theater that really defined that generation. And that's the same. I mean, you've got this like that side series of The Boys called like Gen V and stuff like that I think is great. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there's one that's really been defined as that of it, of the millennium, because I feel like, yeah, they're all like they go directly to Netflix or Hulu or Paramount or Max or something like that. So if I miss it, I miss it.
And it's interesting because, I feel like in terms of genre, like there's like a lot of horror movies that kind of take place in high school. You mentioned the Boys spinoff, but that's a spinoff of a comic book adaptation. What I'm looking for, and I appreciate you kind of going through this, but you're talking about like a Netflix series and kind of this genre stuff. I'm talking about something in the vein of Fast Times or Clueless, like a comedy that's not a horror movie, or it's not explicitly like a sex comedy. I mean, there was sex in Fast Times, but that was dealing with more of the kind of realistic. It was a comedy with sex in it rather than a sex comedy. And there's a big difference because the sex was more dramatic than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
But something that's like an examination, a kind of a loving but honest examination of a generation of youth without the genre stuff kind of attached to it to kind of mask, to kind of paper over some stuff. But I got to go in a couple minutes, and we got two things that we need to do before we go.
Yes.
One, read some comments, which we'll do at the end. Two, I want to talk about Brittany Murphy and Breckin Meyer. On this rewatch, I hate to say it, but like more so than the Alicia Silverstone, Paul Rudd connection, I really loved what was going on with these kind of like stoner kids. Like they're kind of meet cute in the lunchroom where he's talking about, like, he's using his upside down skateboard as a lunch tray. And she's like, oh, those are great stickers. And he's like, oh, I'm thinking about clearing that off and having a Marvin the Martian sticker on it. And she's like, oh, I draw Marvin the Martian. And they're going through the sketch, her like notebook where she's got these sketches, and you can see they really have found each other. She's new to the school. He's overlooked by everybody in the school because he's just a stoner. But throughout the course of the film, like, he is inspired to like give up the bong because he wants to be a better person. And she kind of discovers popularity, but finds that it's kind of empty in the romance department. So she gets up the courage to just like fall for the stoner kid, and they come together. This movie is full of subplots, but I think that is like the real B plot of this movie, maybe even the A plot in terms of effectiveness.
No, I agree. I love them so much. I actually got to meet Breckenmeyer at C2E2, and if you get the chance, he is absolutely fantastic. He spends so much time like talking with people and going over the film. We took like all these different pictures, and he like took my phone. It's like click, 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 click. And same with Wallace Shawn. Wallace Shawn, if you get a chance to meet him, I actually told him, I asked him why he wasn't at the Clueless reunion at C2E2. And I felt horrible because he was like, there was a Clueless reunion at C2. I'm like, it was the week before, 2 weeks ago. He's like, it was the week before. I'm like, yeah, in Chicago. He's like, it was in Chicago. I'm like, oh shit, man. It's like, and he was at C2E2 with, Inconceivable with Princess Bride. And we got to talk about that and stuff. And he takes so much time talking to people. So Breckenmeyer, I love him to death. I encourage anyone, if he's at a thing, to go see him because he is absolutely amazing. And yes, he and Ty, they should have been together from the beginning. Yet I'm glad they weren't, because since they weren't, he became a better person. He, got rid of, really focused on who he wanted to be. And same with her. So when they did finally get together, they became the best versions. They were the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. And what I love, many things I love about this movie, and again, I'm a late adopter of Clueless, is all of the different subplots. The Heckerling as a writer and as a filmmaker really gives each one of these plots its due. There isn't anything that's kind of tossed off or like, oh, this is like the fifth story. You're really going to get some great resolution with these characters. The last thing I'll say before we get to comments, there's so much, you mentioned Pornhub. There's so much fetishizing of Alicia Silverstone's lips, particularly in the beginning of this movie where she's putting on the lipstick and it's like zeroing in on her mouth. It occurred to me, speaking of modern parallels, how many people spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those lips? I mean, they are, I don't know if she ever had those insured, but it's comical because they don't seem like they should be able to exist on a human mouth, but she's got them, and it's amazing.
Well, and that's why her face was like the poster for The Crush. It's like you've got her sunglasses and then you've got the lips that she has, which, are amazing. And they probably should have been insured, but that was way before stuff was being insured like that. So.
All right. Well, we've got a stream of comments to go through. So I'm going to do a super quick roll through, unfortunately, because time is not on my side. But David Wilt says, I think what makes Clueless such a cult classic is it came out during the time when that changed America, because the movie we see everyone using a cell phone, and way before we had texting, and what was known as the pager was sort of like the modern version of the beeper. Yes, it was weird to see pagers again.
Yeah.
In the movie, you also see Cher on the web searching for what is the best outfit, and the internet was the new technology, and the only time we could ever get to the net was from our laptop or personal computers. True. This movie had a very young Nicole Billerback, who one might remember as playing one of the two mean cheerleader girls in the movie Bring It On. I didn't catch that. The movie also has Julie Brown, who was once a big star back in the 80s. She once had her own talk show, Just Say Julie. If you ever watched the music video Supermodel by now the late Jill Sobule, yes. The end is a parody of Carrie, and Julie Brown did her own version with the song The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun.
Yep, and I'm a Blonde by Julie Brown. Yeah.
This movie had so many iconic lines such as whatever, as if, and where there goes your social life. That's an all-timer for me. Oh, so good. Wallace Shawn played the teacher, was also in the short-lived TV series Spinoff. Yes. Speaking of premium cable, I don't know if you know this, but back the Disney Channel was once a premium channel. Yep. 90s, we also had many thrillers with very Hitchcockian, and one of the best movies from the decade was The Net with Sandra Bullock. Hard to disagree there, David, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Wow. All right. I've got to run. But
yes.
Before I do, I want to say, first of all, thank you, Katie. And I want to say, everyone out there, thank you for dropping in and hanging out as we talk Class of 95 Clueless. check out Katie's stuff. Like her links and also the links to all of Earth's Mightiest Critics are down below. Next week, I think I'm gonna have to do a bit of a time change. Got something else going on, but we're gonna be back talking about another '95 movie, Mallrats. Lots to say about Kevin Smith's sophomore effort. So yeah, well, I'll post the time and all the information coming up soon this week. So I hope you'll join us back there for that. Katie, any closing words on Clueless?
One thing I was thinking of, this is an excellent example of how to do exposition in a film without having a huge monologue or story. It's like a one sentence exposition for each of the characters. It does them justice, and you fall in love and hate right away. Love this movie. Will always stand by this movie. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it, and please, Hollywood, do not make a remake or anything. Just keep this. Don't mess with it. This is perfection.
Agreed. I hope Amy Heckerling has some kind of a clause, because this is also a Universal picture, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe she has like a Spielberg deal where no one can remake Jaws, or like Zemeckis, no one can remake Back to the Future. I'm hoping the same thing is true with Clueless. But anyway,
it's Paramount.
Oh, is it Paramount?
Paramount on the
that's
VHS.
right.
So that's what I'm like. That's what I'm looking at. Like, it's Paramount. I don't see Universal.
Okay.
Might be Universal now. I don't know.
I know. But no, thank you for the correction. I always want to be correct on this show, but I fail miserably most of the time. But anyway, I'm going to run, everybody. So thank you very much for hanging out. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and all that business. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you and take care. And we're out, I think.